Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. My intention with this video is to go into a little channeled information from my guides, which I call flow. It just means I'm going into a space of a higher brainwave state that allows me to connect with the field that we all exist within and share different subjects that might be beneficial for the collective or anyone watching. So many of us are witnessing a massive uprising occurring within ourselves and within, I had a bug, and within our environment. There are things that are shifting, and they are shifting so rapidly. It is, I'm seeing people like doing like the rapid eye movement, like they can't focus because there's so much going on. And so we're being called to recognize and witness this as neutral, from a neutral standing place as possible, and to stand in this place as often as possible. For this will help us understand more of what the future holds without projecting ourselves completely into the future, and allowing ourselves to be in the present moment and enjoy the experiences that are being offered in this present moment. For as we allow ourselves to fall into a space of present witnessing, compassion, communication, we allow ourselves to feel into the experience. And this is part of what the experience is all about. This allows us to reflect and to look into what at the present moment feels out of alignment before we move forward or project ourselves into the future. For as we look towards the future, we are sending out a projection from our energy now that is essentially assisting in co-creating the future. So if we are in a constant place of aggravation, it creates an aggravated, tangled signature that is then read by the field and sent out in that verbiage, so to speak, play on words, that creates a disambiguous, this is the play on words, I'm being called to play with that for a moment. Okay, I see. So basically what we're doing is we're opening to more than one interpretation, and we're not necessarily just right. Oh, I'm really being called to play with that. We're going to play with that at a different time, stay in flow. So we move into the simplicity and out of complexity, and yet we would play with this too, for that is that has a certain amount of ambiguity to the word. Oh boy. For in complexity, sometimes something is complex, it can be confused with complicated. And with complexion, we are recognizing that many of us are looking for complexity, which is beyond simplicity. And yet some people see simplicity as lack of complexity. Do you guys get what I put down? So I'm seeing basically like we want a complex wine that has many different flavors. Or if it's simple, it's just grapes, right? But on the flip side, having a certain amount of complexity can make things complicated. And we're being called to simplify things. And by simplifying things and going within, it helps us to understand from a broad perspective the different things that we're seeing from different perspectives, but also to differentiate from the confusion that's going on, because we're seeing a lot of things with double meanings. So there's a lot to this particular message, but let me go back in this one. And so we are being called to come back into our station and to remain in this seemingly stationary space. This is all a play on words. For our station is our home base. It is where we are located. That doesn't mean we don't move. That doesn't mean we don't change locations. This doesn't mean that we don't have movement, but we hold our station which is our own ability to remain simple in our own complexity and to simplify our origination points. Much of this is a play on words, and we do this on purpose to move out of the linearity of most words and conceptualization of words and packages that words have been conformed into. So we are looking towards a future when we sit within this station, allowing us to change stations, allowing us to hear more complexity while simplifying it down to the original, down to the origination of all of the signals. We begin to recognize where the signal is coming from and what it represents, the origination of it. And this allows us to differentiate and access multiple points of view and perspectives. This message is confusing, we understand. We will go back and rewrite this and share it in a different way. For we are playing with words, and language is meant to be played with, especially during this time frame. For we have entered into a new age where speech patterning is being replayed and accessed from a different signature, such as artificial intelligence. And so we must learn how to decode certain messages with our own inner intelligence and not relying on some outside architecture to deem what it is that the definition is that has been programmed into it. And that's a different topic, but is one worth bringing up. So we must play with our own communication in a much more advantageous propagation. We must move forward and propagate from the simplest form of alliance within ourselves, our own self-reliance, our own ability to categorize and simplify things and yet maintain our own station. So again, this comes back to our home base, our signature frequency. We can turn on all the other radios, we can hear them all, but where is our signature coming from? Is it coming from the heart, or are we plugged into all these other places and spaces that are shouting at us and pulling us into different directions? So things have been amplified, and our own signature is also under a phase of amplification. So it is important that we recognize our own signature that's being amplified so that we can hear it behind all of the other amplified signatures. For as we tune up into our new tune, our new innate intelligence, or we begin to retune and activate our innate intelligence and inner, I'm seeing flexing our muscles, it allows us to stimulate a neural pathway and neuron activity in such a way that we begin to harness an attribute that was previously undisplayed. We begin to change what it is that we are focusing on, and this allows us to tune into more that has been potentially blurred in the background. I'm seeing a lot of big noises that were outplaying the sound of the center. So it was like, look over here, look over here. Now we're like, wait a minute. Where is this foundation? What are we feeling? What are we tuning into? We tune up and we allow ourselves to reorganize these neuronic, play on words, these neuronic pathways. So for those of us that have been misfiring, we might say, we bring ourselves back into a place of alignment that we create our own station. And from this, we send out our own signal that amplifies our home base signal, that allows us to signify, play on words, a different rate or grade of reality. So I'm seeing like a ratio and a grade, grading as in letters, grading as in numerical applications, and a gradient. So we allow ourselves to move up at a higher rate of innate intelligence. And this allows us to contemplate what we are seeing and witnessing from a much more fine-tuned place. It allows us to fine-tune and make the appropriate adjustments in our own technology that allows us to create a more varied or diversified expression at a much higher rate of speed. And we play with time now, for many have seen or felt that time is speeding up. And while this is true from one perspective, this is not necessarily an actual directive, because the way in which we are accessing time has also shifted. Therefore, the way in which we are creating in time has also shifted. So therefore, our directive has shifted. Where we are headed, where we are going, play on words, where we are coming from has also shifted, because once we attune ourselves with a greater rate of variability and heart rate intelligence, we are now coming from a different place and using a different reflective, I'm seeing a reflection. Ooh, so much, you guys. This is, boy, this is a big one. We're in it. So what I'm seeing is we're in this space and we're looking back and we're seeing things differently. So where we're coming from is also affecting our future differently. So these are great enhancements that are being offered right now in your current time frame. So a frame, what we're holding a picture in, frame is in speed of like in a movie frame, and also a blueprint, right? A frame, like a car frame, our vehicular frame. For as we move up into this greater clarification, we find the need for greater clarification. We ask ourselves more questions that have answers that were previously undetected before. So not only were the questions previously undetected, but therefore so were the answers. Or therefore we are recognizing we have questions that we did not have before. And we will then have answers to things that we did not recognize we had answers to. And so this can be overwhelming as we move into this next phase of our development and we access different portions of ourselves, and we recognize that we are walking portals and that our own abilities have now ported us into a period of great import. We are now in a phase of development where we are walking, talking examples of heightened receptor activity. Whether we realize it or not, our capacity or brainwave capacity has grown. Our ability to increase our brainwave enhanceability, attractability has grown. So let's break this down for a moment. What we are attracting, I'm seeing tractor beam, Dumb and Dumber, and I'm also seeing attracting. It's working both ways. So our brain is being enhanced in our bodies from one perspective because of what's happening in evolution or in ascension, if we want to call it that. So our brain power has sped up. So what we're going to see potentially, and I'm just going to say what I'm seeing and hearing at the same time, what we're going to see potentially is so to do the advancements that we're witnessing. It's like we're seeing things outside of us trying to keep up with what's going on inside of us. So I'm hearing, don't get lost in the fray. That's a play on words. And don't be afraid, because we are essentially no longer keeping up with the Joneses, play on words, like or metaphor. We're seeing at a much higher rate of speed, And we're beginning to witness things developing that are much more, they're vying for our attention because we aren't so easily, it's like we're looking here, we're looking there, but we're also able to process it a lot more. The flows that are coming in are going to enhance the human in such a way that we are going to look back and say, what did we do before this? How were we even operating at the level that we were operating at under these circumstances? For these circumstances are providing us with a momentary recapitulation. And many of us feel that we have capitulated or been capitulated into, and I'm seeing catapulted into, that's a play on words, the capitulation. We've been catapulted into a new dimension and we're not sure exactly where that leaves us. And so we are leaving behind a world that we once felt very comfortable in and yet no longer feel compatible with at all. We feel very uncomfortable and in a great amount of resistance to this old world that we don't even recognize is no longer supporting us anymore. It is difficult to convey information about multidimensionality and realities and moving up through, let us say, the etheric realms. Yet that is exactly what we are doing, moment to moment, day by day. And this is slowed down from our perspective because of our time frame, our moment to moment, day by day perspective. As this is all happening from one perspective in a millisecond, you might say. Yet this is also taking much time or consuming much energy. So this is a play on words for we are consuming much energy. So we are being called to recognize what it is that we are consuming, what type of energy we are consuming, and what impact that this has on the greater whole of it all. So what are we leaning towards? And seeing the Leaning Tower of Pisa. We must recognize that our foundation needs to be firm and fluid at the same time. And so getting back into the aspect of what can we do in this now time to renew our ability to feel, and really access our greater levels of awareness. And we must feel in order to access these greater levels of awareness. For our unconsciousness is coming to a conscious understanding if we can tie the two together, if we can better inform ourselves, if we can feel better informed. And we are not referring necessarily to the information that is being documented outside of us, nor are we referring to the information that is trying to tell us how to interpret our surroundings. We are being called to access our own inner tuition, our intuition, and to find ourselves feeling into every conversation, feeling into every show or representation of energy that we are looking at. And this allows us to use our own discernment or recognition to enhance our capability to feel into what is true, what is needed, and what is not, what is no longer part of that which we wish to feel, that we wish to participate in, that we wish to energetically compromise. This is a varied information, and the way that we are sharing this information is actually tuning and plugging into different aspects of different, we could say, motherboards or chips of information. We are dipping into a multidimensional way of communication, and this is because the versions of reality that we are expressing from are varied. And there are many that we are trying to help funnel into the few. For we are consistently accessing a small or minute amount of what it is that we have access to. And yet we do this in part because what we have access to is so vast, it can pull us apart in many directions if we are not centered in our own inner direction, our own inner course. This is a play on words, our own inner chorus, our own inner course of where it is that we are in the now moment. And this also refers to our own inner domain of our body and who it is that we are exchanging our body with. For this is an energetic exchange. And there may be some people that are not necessarily matched up for that exchange any longer. And this is important to witness as well, changing within ourselves. We may not feel the need to bond in that way with particular people anymore or any longer. And this does not necessarily refer to relationships in the now moment, although it may. It also refers to our future relationships that we are potentially sending signals out to connect with, recognizing that we are no longer holding the same charge. Therefore, those particular people, places, or things that we wished to draw a course with are no longer part of our bigger picture. And yet there are some that wish to grow with us. And this is because of their own enhanced abilities. And so we are being called to be patient in some cases and not to necessarily catapult ahead before we have addressed our own station. Basically, I'm seeing tying up loose ends, and not just, I just had this experience with a friend of mine. We were just talking about this, but I'm seeing the pattern here. Some people want to run away from relationships. They want to jump into their next timeline, and that means it doesn't include their partner, but they're not necessarily acknowledging that their partner actually is part of that. And it can be a temporary disconnect. So if we can find ourselves centering, we can work through that and assist one another in working through that, and then catapult together. And it might be uncomfortable. It might feel off for a while. It may feel like you're just not matching up, but that doesn't mean give up. From another perspective, that is necessary in some cases. But I'm also seeing the message here of what they're referring to are people that are maybe going out and looking for love in all the wrong places. Like sometimes people are searching for something because of what they were in the habit of looking for. That's all shifted. So, but I'm also seeing all these different realities. So it's a lot. So let us come back to the basics as always and align ourselves with our heart, align ourselves with the frequencies that we are able to fully tune into. And this also is a recommendation to fully tune into our bodies, fully tune into our visions, fully tune into all of our sensations, so that we aren't over sensationalized, so that things around us aren't pulling us in many different directions through over sensationalism, because our enhanced frequency means that many of us will feel enhanced. Therefore, all frequencies will feel enhanced. Therefore, where we pull our energy from and where we direct our energy towards is also enhanced. This is where we come back to the fact that we are all divine co-creators in our experience. And as we are co-creating together, we are being called to this advanced stage of appropriate and heartfelt action. And this is part of our own self-mastery, in which we are able to move up and somehow stay balanced And this is challenging in these times, and yet you are being gifted with the opportunity time and time again in this time to hone in and come back to the home base as often as possible while you are being gifted these gifts. Therefore, the more you can absorb that is healthy and abundant for you, the more you will feel in health, wellness, and abundance. The more that we absorb that is not healthy and good for the well-being state of mental clarity, physical clarity, and grounded, anchored energy, will that have a less positive impact on all of those things. And so we play here just for a moment. And while the wordplay in the beginning was very helpful for some who are very multidimensional and play with language, we also have morphed into this particular communication and way of communication that has a bit more transparency in it of understanding. I'm being told it's difficult for me to do that because I'm hearing so much, and they're acknowledging that for me, which is really nice, because sometimes I do this and I'm like, oh my goodness. And that's an example of me being centered enough to hear that message while also interpreting the other messages. This is an example of the gifts that I'm talking about. Some of us are going to be having these gifts and it's like, well, wait a minute, what should I be tuning into? What am I hearing? And you have to come back to the heart. You have to come back to the inner stability. And if it's not feeling that way, do something that's good for you. I'm hearing, take me to the river. Listen to some music, dance, go to the river, take a walk, do things that are going to enhance that feeling of good, the feeling of, and it might take a little bit to get there. Boy, I just covered a lot of topics. Whew, because there's a lot of topics to cover. And these topics that we are covering are actually helping us to uncover things that have been covered. And we play with this because this is a continuing topic in the social, political, and economic communities, or we would hesitate to call it community, for it is not in union. It is far beyond unification. And yet at the same time, as you unify with yourself, you allow these collectives to merge and unify as well to become a higher set of standards. And so we are recognizing that there are much topics that are going to be uncovered. And while this is happening concurrently with your own topics that are being uncovered, it is important to recognize what is important. For truly, what is important starts with the home source. For you cannot process what is being uncovered out there until you process what is uncovered from underneath our own deep space. I'm hearing Deep Space Nine. Our own inner station. And so while these times are going to continue, we would invite you all to continue in the course of continually learning and knowing thyself. This can be fun and exciting and frustrating all at the same time. And we understand, because the energies that are being expressed here through this channel have also been through similar situations at times. And while others of us that are speaking through in this way have never experienced it, we have experienced our own challenges. And this heightened sense of communication has a feeling behind it. And so if you can open your feelers to this form of expression beyond form, we are offering much in the other realms, in the realms that are connected to inner earth, in the realms that are connected to the planetary stations outside of Earth, and the connections that are in the ethers, that are our brothers and sisters who are guides that have lived this lifetime and have also gone through trials and tribulations that are similar, whether it has been recently in the last 100 years or beyond, even back to our ancient ancestors. For this field that we are all connected in, that it consists of waves and currents and energy, is something that we all make up. We are all part of. And so those of us who can feel into the great hug that is being held for humanity at this time, I'm getting emotional. Whew. We've got a lot of support, even though it's really hard to feel sometimes. And when you open up to this, you can feel the love that is being offered. And we invite you to offer that loving feeling. I'm hearing the Righteous Brothers. I'm seeing Top Gun. Offer that feeling for others who may be unable to feel it. For sometimes it takes the human expression of love for another human to feel it. Not everyone is capable at this time. Well, I'm seeing that they are capable, but they aren't because of circumstances that they're in, of feeling this beautiful energy that is essentially cradling humanity at this time. For each human on here is on this earth or in this reality, in all realities, is so loved by so many beings. And we must start with loving ourselves first in order to see the love, in order to express that love to other humans that need it, that are unable or unwilling to feel it. And we would say that those that are unwilling are on their own journey. And instead of focusing on those that are unwilling, focus on those that are willing. Focus on those that are in a place that they need that extra support. And this will have a bigger ripple effect than essentially, I'm seeing us banging our head against a brick wall. Sometimes it's that person that we didn't know that needs the support, and they may not have known it. The ones that are anti, that are like, get away, I don't want anything to, they need it the most, oftentimes. However, when we work with that energy, that the people that are open, asking for it, that's going to have such a strong impact that those that think they're unwilling, I see their shells cracking. Not everyone, but they'll start to feel this huge wave, and you can't, eventually it melts. Even, I'm hearing even the coldest of hearts can be melted by the compassion of humanity. I'm going to end on that note. So that was a lot, and it was a very different, I was going into several different fields there. So hopefully someone benefited from this. Thank you so much. In love and light. Namaste.